Hi, I'm Kelly Hushin. I'm here with Jaime Bohnke from Tyco International. We are at ProcureCon 2010, and I just wanted to sit down with you for a few minutes because you just gave a great talk about some of the initiatives that you're doing at Tyco, and one thing in particular that I thought was really interesting was this category CEO concept that everybody seems to be buzzing about. So can you just explain what that is and where it came from and how that's working at Tyco?
It was pretty interesting to see all the questions around that, although not surprising to me because I think it is pretty darn innovative. And it really is, it's a take on really driving roles and responsibilities to a whole different level. And I've been preaching forever in my roles around having folks take broad accountability and all that. The difference with Tyco is, versus where I've ever come from, is it's not been necessary for success in other places. I mean, we've had a lot of boots on the ground, hundreds of people in the supply chain. And Tyco, we've decided to stay lean and mean, but also drive global enterprise value. And the only way you can get that is if you have right people in the right job, and not in its traditional way. You have to have business leaders driving business decisions to focus on specific category development. So it developed from an idea I had around saying, really the business at Tyco, what it needs is a different flavor of person than it's ever had, and a different flavor of person that I think I've seen before. And that means if you think about somebody that runs a traditional category, they run it meaning, okay, it's my job to gather all the spend, to put together deals, drive compliance, show metrics, communicate the deal, and share it with the businesses. This is about somebody focusing on growing the category to a different maturity level. It's about focusing on growth for the category, driving spend in that space, but also thinking about how it's going to market it, how it's going to develop its assurance that it's going to be institutionalized or in the business's drinking water, so to speak. So if you think about that, in a true business format, you're responsible for growth, you're responsible for finance, you're responsible for quality, you're responsible for customer satisfaction. And so what I do in that way to measure the CEO itself, not the person per se, but the CEO category, is I measure those elements in the way that you would measure a business in a health record. So how is it growing? What are the customers saying about it? How is its quality? Its quality could be anything from how a person is managing it, to the interaction that the person's having with the business unit, to actually how are the suppliers performing in that space, and how are you driving product innovation in this space, i.e. bringing in suppliers early on in the design state. How are you designing your process in that category to support a specific business need? So I mean, I could go on for hours relative to it, but it's a whole different kind of thinking around how you manage spend.
So why is this so innovative when it comes to procurement? I mean, why have other massive procurement organizations not thought about something like this?
I think I don't know, other than, to be honest with you, I think there's not any more impetus than there is now, given these economic challenges, to think differently. So I think more companies will be thinking that, because as you're collapsing and consolidating, you perhaps are trying to drive cost out of your G&A. And if you have places where you have organizations in place in siloed kind of ways, you're really not optimizing the value chain. And so I don't know that it's all that innovative, other than saying, listen, I didn't ask anybody, I took a leap of faith, this is the right direction. I've been there and done it a million times in other kinds of ways. This is just the next evolution to procurement taking a different seat at the table. And it's depending what school you come from. I mean, it originally was purchasing agents, then you have buyers, then you have commodity managers, and I think this is a nice evolution to where the function is progressing.
Right, right. Interesting. So can you give maybe just a specific example of how this is working? Like, let's say a category CEO of X category, and what do they do? What's sort of a day in the life of them, and how does this whole thing actually work logistically?
Yeah, a CEO leader of a category might get a call from a president that something's not working, or they've just experienced something, because everybody knows that they're accountable for that. I hold specifically each individual accountable, and I'm careful with the words, but I hold them fully accountable for the performance of that category, no matter what it is: perception, delivery, quality, you know, that whole bit. But they're responsible for the entire behavior and how that's perceived at a company level. So, and I say there's a strong difference between responsibility and accountability. I hold accountability them, but the responsibility part is that's where the influencing piece comes on. So if they're doing a great job in influencing the organization to behave differently, then they're doing a pretty responsible job. And they could get a call from a president, they could get a call from somebody out in that's a recipient of it, whatever the design might be, whether it be a service or a product that's actually put in place by that leader, that category CEO. And so the whole point of it is, or the example would be, they could be pulled on from every level in an organization, but they are the face of that category. They are seen as the person to go to stimulate new thinking in that. They're seen as the person to drive issues, to mitigate risk. And it really is a brand more than anything, I guess.
Right, so kind of taking hold of their own mini brand in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, I'm excited to hear how it goes for you and see if other people here at the show start to adapt this concept in their organizations. Mm-hmm.